Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another DC comic review, and in this DC comic review I'll be reviewing DC Batman 1057 Titans United, the last issue, which has been really enjoyable, and last but not least, Terrible Tom Taylor's Nightwing issue 90. So, time to get started with Batman. So, moving into first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside of the story? In some essence it does, but in some parts it doesn't. To which I give this cover a 6.5 out of 10. I will not be covering the backstory in this, only the main story. So now it's time to move into the internal art, as well as having a look at some of the things that are happening inside with the story. And let's look at the beginning, middle, and of course the end. And as we get to the beginning of the story, Batman has finally turned up on the scene at the tower. I'll now jump towards the middle. And as we jump towards the middle of the story, we have Batman once again. And we have Psycho Pirate, and something's about to happen involving, well, either Psycho Pirate and Scarecrow. As we move towards the end, we end up meeting a new person who might actually become another villain, and take note of when this takes place in the story. I quite enjoyed the internal art in this, to which I gave it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time for the story rating. Now, first things first, did we get any comic references to any of the previous issues connected to this story that might connect to something important that's happening inside this story? No we didn't, which I'm really surprised. The next thing is time. Well, we learned that we are on day 67 with what's happening at the Arkham Tower, and of course the location is the Arkham Tower. The cast of characters consisting of course, Batman, Oracle, Penguin, Scarecrow, Tim Drake, Batwoman, Harley Quinn, Lady Clayface, Huntress, Psycho Pirate, and Cassandra Cain Batgirl. The overall rating I gave this story was a 6.5 out of 10, as it feels like it's lost its luster a little bit. It would have been really nice just to see Bat family members helping out Bat family members, and that is something I do agree with, of what has been brought up in regards to the comic community, in regards to this particular story. And now it's time to move on to the next thing that will be reviewed. Time to go to Titans United. Now it's time to move into the final issue of Titans United, and starting off with first things first, and that is in relation to this cover. Does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside of the story? Sure enough, it does, and you'll be surprised with the rating I gave it, an 8 out of 10. I'll now go to showing some of the internal art, as well as covering some of the parts that are happening inside story-wise, around the beginning, middle, and of course the end. Do enjoy. As we start at the beginning of the story, we have Connor Kent, who is actually turning against Blackfire, Starfire's sister, to eventually sort of waking up to the situation as to what's happened to him. And of course we've got the members of the Titans all together, and you can certainly see Blackfire is not impressed how Starfire foiled her plans, with the help of the Titans of course. And we've got quite a number of members there, including Nightwing, Red Hood, Donna Troy, Hawk and Dove. Jumping towards the middle of the story, we have a little bit more happening in regards to both Blackfire and Starfire. And last but not least, some of the art towards the end, which kind of has taken up the yes. For the internal art in this, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to cover the story rating. First things first, did we get any comic references to any of the previous issues? Sure enough, we did. We did get a comic reference to Titans United issue 2, where things started to take a turn in the story. And in regards to the area of time, the only thing that we got was after, but I think that could have been written up better. The locations to which we visited in this story were the Cadmus facility in Metropolis. The cast of characters, of course, consisting of all the Titans, as well as some of the villains. Blackfire, Starfire, Superboy, Nightwing, Red Hood, Hawk and Dove, Beast Boy, Raven, Donna Troy, plus a number of new characters that were set up in this. In other words, it showed a lot of the new meta-humans that made an appearance in this. I really enjoyed this, so a 7 out of 10 from me. Now it's time to move on to Nightwing. So, back again for another Tom Taylor story, but this time it's covering Nightwing and Wally West. And I must admit, this story was really good, but I'm wondering when things are going to take place back in regards to the topic of Heartless. Of that character who was introduced by the Heartless Tom Taylor. Alright. Does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside of the story? Sure enough it does, to which I gave this cover a 7 out of 10. Good work with that, Bruno Redondo. Fantastic job in what you're doing right now. So, jumping into some of the art around the beginning of the story, and of course we have things starting off in Nightwing's apartment, or Dick Grayson's apartment. To which an emergency has come up. Jumping towards the middle of the story, we of course having Wally West Flash making it to the scene and also giving Nightwing a bit of a help. With Oracle helping in the background too. And last but not least, things starting to take some place in Gotham with the character of Barbara Gordon and things happening here. I really must admit, I totally enjoyed the art that Bruno Redondo did in this issue, that I gave it a 7.5. You know what? I'd have no problem if Bruno Redondo actually wrote this and made Tom Taylor the artist. Because the way he's drawing these characters are absolutely incredible. And if he could draw them as well as write them as well as what he's doing, yeah, I'd choose Bruno Redondo to be writer in this over Tom Taylor. Moving into the next thing. Story rating. Now, did we have any comic references connecting to this story? No, we didn't, but it wouldn't have hurt to include one in relation to the Flash issue. I think that would have been good, especially for any new reader who might be interested in Flash. So, linking it to the current Jeremy Adams run. Moving into the next thing, the area of time, to which we only had seconds later, and that was mainly in reference to the character of Wally West Flash. The locations to where this took place, it's really nice to see that this has improved a bit. In his Nightwing writing, is that we're actually getting more locations. So we know where well, Dick Grayson is going to. We, of course, had Bloodhaven, Blockbuster's building, Dick Grayson's apartment, and we also end up getting to see Keystone City. We also had the Bloodhaven Police Department, and last but not least, mainly Gotham itself. Moving into the cast of characters, we did have Blockbuster at the beginning, Nightwing, Oracle, Wally West, and of course we had Dr. Clancy and Jay and Irie make an appearance in the story, which was really quite interesting. And for this, I did actually give this story something a little bit higher, and that is a 7 out of 10. I think you did a really good job with it this time. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.